What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I've got something a little bit different for you today. I'm going to be talking about a news story. I'm going to be doing a reaction video. This is a news story that broke today. It's caused a little bit of a stir in the British horror community. I'm taking my main source as the Metro news website. Metro is a news website. It also, I mean, I don't 100% know anymore, but it used to be a free newspaper that you get on the London Underground and things like that. I don't know if that's still the case. I haven't lived in London for a while now, so I don't know. But yeah, so a man has been convicted of child cruelty. A child cruelty offence after forcing a 6-year-old girl to watch Night of the Living Dead. My whole reason for kind of making a video about this is that that's slightly ludicrous in a way. Now essentially the crux of the story is that a guy called Peter Bayliss, 53, basically has been given a community service sentence for this child cruelty offence that dates to over 20 years ago, according to this article, sometime in the early 1990s, for punishing the child for misbehaving. It doesn't actually say what in the article, which is something I'll come to, by forcing her to watch Night of the Living Dead. Now, it doesn't go into the nature of that, of forcing. I've got to say, my main thing, I've got to kind of be critical of a couple of things. The first thing that I've really got to be critical of is kind of the reaction within the British horror community, and it's kind of a little bit telling of a couple of things. I mean, the primary reaction has been, oh, it's not that bad, it's quite a tame film, it's, how could you possibly, whatever. And there are problems with that. I mean, first of all, it shows that a lot of people don't understand the difference between explicitness and scariness. Yes, Night of the Living Dead is not a particularly explicit film. I mean, there's a couple of scenes that have got some blood in, but other than that, it's definitely a scary film. You know, I'm not going to pretend it's not. Night of the Living Dead is one of my top 10 favourite films of all time, for sure. I would defend that film, to the grave. I think it's a wonderful film. It's marvellous. And, I've got to be honest, it does have a really creepy atmosphere, a very scary atmosphere. I can imagine that being a very scary thing for a child to see. I'd imagine I would have been very scared by that movie at 6. I'm still a bit scared by it now, but I'm an adult. I quite enjoy that. That's one of the things I enjoy about it. One of the big things is that although it caused, let's have a look at this 1 second. There was no sustained abuse, but this is the words of the recorder who passed down the sentence. This was not sustained abuse, but you quite deliberately made a child watch a horror film as a punishment for behaving like a child. So again, like I say, all of the articles on this I've seen have all been very vague. They haven't gone into why the child was punished, or the nature of being forced. Was this a case of he put it on in the same room as her and he was watching it, or what was he was this on like Clockwork Orange style and she had her eyes fucking open like that? It's not, this whole article is not very clear on what happened. She suffered not a long-term psychological injury, but from evidence she suffered nightmares for some time afterwards. Now, is that really his fault? This is my thing. Is showing someone a film that causes them to have nightmares, regardless of their age, is that tantamount to cruelty? I'm not sure it is. I've said this woman hasn't suffered any long-term damage. She just had some nightmares afterwards, which, like I say, kind of makes me think, well, this guy, yeah, I mean, what he did was kind of a bit reckless and stupid, and he probably shouldn't have done it. But you know, is it really so bad? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a dick move, but being a dickhead isn't necessarily illegal. A couple of sort of conclusions that I've drawn from this little episode. This, you know, it's kind of, in a way, there's good and bad on the side. I'll start off with the good. Okay, there's less now in the press. There's not cries for, oh, ban this sadistic filth, you know, like there would have been in the past. You know, it's happened multiple times in Britain. You know, it happened in the early to mid 80s with the video nasties. It happened in the early 90s. Around the time of the James Bulger murders, there was a huge, you know, the Autumn Amendment and all that. There's always been pushes in Britain to kind of restrict access to film. There's huge censorship, particularly pertaining to kind of film on video, the home market. Although I've got to say, although that hasn't happened, I do have to question whether or not, if this were a more modern film, that might be the case. Perhaps if it had been 28 days later or something like that, maybe that would have been the case. Or I don't know. It's really hard to say. It's tough to say with this sort of thing. But I definitely am kind of interested in how this might have played out different if the offence hadn't taken place so long ago, and with a film that is kind of universally considered a classic now. The bad thing that I want to take from it is that people are still under the impression, for some reason, that films can have an impact on you on a deep psychological level, like a scarring level, or they can cause people to behave violently, or, you know, whatever like this. And I mean, you know, the reasonable among us know that that's bullshit. You know, it's the same with the whole video game debate. It's kind of moved more onto video games now than films, of, oh, you know, these games are going to cause, you know, long-term effects on violent behaviour in society. And it's like, well, no, they're not. There's never been any evidence, you know, proper evidence that supports that. You know, it's just bullshit of the highest order. You know, I mean, the main reason I wanted to talk about my opinions on this story is because it is pretty funny. Let's face it, it's a guy, you know, and in a way it's kind of sad because, I mean, this guy, you know, they've mentioned that he, you know, clearly suffered with some severe alcoholism, and that may have played a part. So in that way it's sad. It's also kind of sad to see, you know, that this is potentially setting a precedent for a belief that film can be psychologically harming to a person, which of course is ridiculous. But in a way, I do like the fact that you know, they've moved away from, the press at least have moved away from reporting on how, you know, this sort of thing should be cracked down on, when it's, you know, clearly not a threat to anyone, aside from, you know, rent-a-quote MPs and moral busybodies. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed this little opinions section on this news story. Please feel free, if you're new here, to like, comment, subscribe, all of that. I'd really appreciate it. Also, check out my podcast. I've left a link in the description. If you're into music, check it out. It's called Ironcast. We've covered all sorts of different music at this stage. We're coming up on our 50th episode. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you again soon.